Welcome to the Language Mental Health channel. Good to see you another week. I got a good friend here, James Freed. Played some college football together. Nice to have you here, my man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're not at the gym. You're always over there working out, doing things. Today's episode is Your End Can Be Your Start, the good and the bad with life after the lights. Me and Freed played some college football together. Really want to chop it up with you, people back home, just kind of getting a feel for just life after football. You know, kind of like what's happened and whatnot. You play football. How long did you play, my man?
Let's see, I started at 9, I think like 18 years, 20 years, somewhere in there.
You did like the whole package deal, huh?
Yeah, all the way up. From about 8.5 to 24. So
It was all bright
I
in
was
Little League.
I was an older guy on the field.
Was
I
it?
was the old guy.
Was it? And you
Yeah.
did Brighton the whole time
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Little League?
Yeah, I grew up in that area and stayed up in that area, the valley. So it was
All right.
kind of, used to bleed Brighton, but
I'm here. I hear you. You know, I didn't play football till 8th grade.
really.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And my dad playing some pro soccer. I was just like all about soccer. And I got made fun of a little bit playing it growing up. But he told me I had a tendency to slam into people. so I was like, all right, I guess I'll try football. But I went through a stage of really trying to find my niche. Did you play different positions in football, like trying to find like your spot?
Yeah, when I was young, I didn't really know though. I mean, I grew up in a small town in Montana, and we didn't have football.
Is that right?
Yeah, we didn't have football. And we moved down here when I was about 8.5, and I saw back when we used to have newspapers and read them.
Man, times were good.
I saw a picture on the sports page of this Little League game going on, and I told my dad, I said, hey, I want to play. So we found the league that we belonged to geographically, and went and signed up, and just kind of stuck with it.
So what are all the positions you played? Did you ever run the ball a little bit?
I did. It was funny. That same year, I played running back, and the very first time that I touched the ball in the game, I scored. And
Get out. Talk about a win, huh? I tell people things.
I started crying. It's an 8.5.
Already?
Yeah, so like
Man,
I didn't know.
dream come true. I mean, you were killing it.
Yeah,
you know,
I didn't
clearly.
know, but it was awesome.
Just ran up the sideline off the
Yeah,
edge, or
just
what?
like a 37 sweep, man. Just hit the jets on the outside. But
Sometimes you get lucky like that, or you've worked hard. It happens. But I was gonna say, I tell people back home about baby wins. Just barely. I'm like, give me something in the direction where you want to go, and then the points start to add up. Your mind will change, but you kind of hit that one out the park. Huh?
I know. You set the expectations too high, I guess.
That's cool. When I was running the ball in Little League, I actually played at Kearns Little League, and I was super embarrassed about it because I was going to school in Taylorsville at Benyon, and I signed up for like Taylorsville Little League, and they had like a good Little League back then, and nervous to play and show these guys at school that I could do it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I got the helmet and everything, and they called my house, and they're like, no, you can't go to Taylorsville. He's Kearns. And my dad's like, yeah, but we live in the city of Taylorsville. They're like, yeah, but the zones are different.
Yeah.
I always thought that if everyone played to their zones out here back then, it would have been different, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean
Way
nowadays
different. Yeah.
it's you got high schools all around recruiting, and that's the name of the game.
Did you get any of that happen to you, or you were always just right there in Brighton, I guess?
Yeah, I actually had to get a waiver to play in Brighton's area.
Yeah.
Because we were on the boundary.
With what, Hillcrest?
Jordan.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I had a coach drive me to school. After my freshman year, I was actually ineligible. I played up at the high school for T-ville. And then going into my sophomore year, I actually played Olympus, man. And he was out in Taylorsville area, but he would drive me to school. Looking back, I'm like, can they even do that now?
yeah, they can't do a lot of things.
They can't do a lot of things now, huh? But I guess now you can play wherever. Isn't that the case?
I don't know all the stipulations.
Your son play Little League yet? You got some kids, right?
Yeah, I got 3 boys. My oldest, we just finished our first Little League season last year, and they're both playing flag, in the off season, and so it's fun to see. Last year we actually won the championship for his age group, and it was just to see, where they came from in the beginning of the season, because we started 0-3.
Right.
So we had to make some adjustments, and we made those, and then the rest of the season we won out. And it's just cool to kind of see it come full circle. I talked to another one of my buddies I grew up with, playing Little League. His kids are at the same age, and it's just
It's fun, huh?
Yeah, it's cool.
No, and I asked that question because, well, what neighborhood are you in? Where would they end up playing?
Riverton.
Oh, okay. So that's why you're working out over here, and I'm seeing you a lot. You are close by.
Yeah.
You guys got a house out there?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we've been out there for 6 years.
Okay.
So
You got the whole thing, man.
yeah.
So we talked about your end can be your start. And I mean, you started your family. Let's fast forward a bit, man. When did you start this family? When did you get married?
12 and a half years ago, coming up on 13. So
Trying to think. So what year are we talking?
2011, I think.
Okay. So a
2011.
couple years after our last season,
Yeah.
in 09 over at Dixie State.
Yeah.
Now Utah Tech.
Yeah.
Lots changed, huh?
Yeah.
Man, what'd you love about football though? Clearly you hit the jackpot a bit with the first touchdown, but why'd you play it?
I like the camaraderie, when you have that, I guess, that team where you really kind of fight, you'll go to battle for your other teammates. That camaraderie, I think, is pretty unique.
So you played for Brighton, you played junior college at Snow College, and you played after
Dixie.
2 years. Did you use your red shirt at all?
Yeah, at Snow.
Okay. Where did you have the most camaraderie?
At Snow.
What was it like playing over there? And I'll admit, when I knew you came from Snow, I mean, I was like, all right, I mean, you weren't playing my position or anything, so
Yeah.
I think you actually played corner on the strong side, no? Like our left side?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, just, the tempo of practice in junior college that they ran, it just kind of forced you to come together. I mean, you'd be sucking wind, or, somebody else on the team or the squad would be sucking wind, and they'd bring you up, and you knew that you had to do the same. And I think that was and obviously the location, right? There wasn't a whole lot to do other than school and football, and it was a little small rural town. But
Well, I know what we had over at Dixie State, and I feel like we didn't really have. I mean, I feel like we worked hard, but for me, from high school and how the culture was in high school at Bingham, it was a big difference for me. It went from feeling like I was playing with my brothers to players meetings the night before the games, passion, emotion, like it meant something, and then it just seemed like we had like a vibe, like people acted cool and stuff.
Yeah, that was.
You remember that?
Oh yeah, 100%. That was my biggest. That was my biggest observation right away, was people just playing for themselves instead of the team. Everybody worrying about how many catches they'll get or tackles they'll get. And,
Yeah.
Instead of just do your job, right? Don't try and be an all-star. And
There was blaming. I know if we were on defense and things weren't going right, you'd hear some blaming, and that was an adjustment, man.
That was my biggest. That was the hardest thing for me, because in the previous 2 years it was not like that. And your comment earlier, working hard, right? Like, I mean, we had to get up at 5 in the morning and work out under 32 degree, 30 degree bleachers, and that's all we had.
Yeah.
Dixie was freaking cush. It's easy.
But there was something, I think, at Dixie that was probably a little more turned up than what you all had at Snow. I mean, I think we kind of brought this up, but I'd say it's the culture. I mean, we had a lot of partying down there. We had a lot of like the scene, and some of that status from playing ball, whether we were good or not. I feel like that existed, you know. Do you feel like you had that at Snow?
No.
See, I feel like we were gonna beat y'all in that one, but it was like going to Vegas a lot, Mesquite a lot. I mean, Freed, we had our some similar circles there,
Yeah. Yeah, that scene, and that's, probably what contributed to the success of and the failure, in my opinion, of, both teams. I mean,
Yeah.
those outside distractions and not limiting those, you know.
Tell me this: if there was like pillars that were the themes of like snow football, and you guys went to the national title, didn't you?
Yeah, both years.
You played in 2 national championships.
Yeah.
My man, wasn't my guy AJ Van Valkenburg over there?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
played with him.
Yeah, AJ was a junior when I was a senior.
Okay.
Yeah, so he kind of came from that. So y'all were on the field together,
Yeah.
playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he tried to give it a run over at BYU a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
After snow.
So that was going on, and you had some people come through there, right? Like I think you had like some players who played big roles D1, even went to the league, right?
We had a lot of players go to the NFL.
Wasn't Matt there?
Yeah.
Osceola, right?
Yeah. I mean, you name it. There's a lot of them that played at the U, Oregon State, Oklahoma. I mean, but.
So the themes that you guys, you seem like you were working hard though, and it was like less distractions. It was just really like football, but there was like because I would think that at a JUCO, it'd be individual. People want to play at the next level. Like they're like they want the stats and the stats festival, just like what Dixie was saying, but what was different, I guess. Because I want back home where when people are paying attention to how I perceive Freed's experience at Snow, and I think that the difference is I'm hoping that people back home are gonna look at that as to like pillar wise, what was the structure that was different? What was it?
Well, I think the acknowledgement of the fact that there is no next level if you're not successful here.
All right.
Right? I mean, you got to take care of business here, both school and on the field, in order to have an opportunity at the next level.
So people understood that then.
Yeah. And that was really, bred into our minds too, our mentality. Like, look, do you want Snow to be the end of it? Like a little rural college town? Or do you want to go, somewhere else and have an opportunity? And
Talk about reframing, huh? Going to Snow?
Yeah.
It didn't even smell good.
No.
It's
funny. It was funny because, we'd be out on the field practicing all the time. And, I remember standing next to the head coach. And I was like, man, it smells like shit out here. And he's like, Freed? He's like, that's the smell of money around here. Because there's just nothing but turkey farms.
Yeah.
It's just like.
But I almost think he would mean it too in like a perspective, like you have to know you're doing this for something else.
Yeah, greater good. Absolutely.
My man, you go from Snow though to Dixie, playing 2 national championships. I think you'd be getting more love, no?
Well, I had opportunities, and lack of direction, lack of guidance after Snow. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go, and I lost opportunities by not making any decisions.
It's important you say that. I think that that's a big part of why I'm feeling we need to have this conversation, man. But going back, make sure I'm with you, right? You guys knew that was it. That was like priority was you can't get anywhere else unless you get through this. So there was commitment. I'd say that was a pillar.
Yeah.
Feels like there was understanding that y'all had to be committed to each other. And it's a little hard for me to talk about Snow this way, because I could just hate on him, but I respect it, but you guys knew you had to be committed to the process, and that meant playing not just individual football.
Yeah.
Because y'all had to be playing good to be getting that national championship 2 times.
Yeah, we were good, man. I mean, offense, we were just solid all around, and that was just the, that's the way that we practiced, just balls to the wall, and we practiced, 100%, and that way when we got to the games, we knew what we were doing, what we were up against, and there was no difference between practice effort and game time effort. It was just all the same, and that's I think that seamlessly, there was no disconnect between that for all of us. So it was just, taking care of business, and
Yeah.
you know, there's a saying that when we were there, we kind of lived by, and it was up on the one, and it just meant that, you know, it doesn't matter what you did the week previous, you know, or a couple weeks. It's you got to take care of business today, this week.
Yeah.
You got to be up on the one, right? So the next game, the next practice, you got to win it. You got to be up on that one, and you know, you build upon that
Up on the one.
momentum.
I like it. I like it. And when it came to just like, I guess, the measurable goals, like that you guys were breaking down, where you knew you had to get wins in before the season started, was, I guess, practicing like how you play and the way you were training. You said it was different compared to, it was miserable.
Oh, dude, it was.
So there's a price to pay, though, right?
Oh yeah.
Like these fellas who think that they can be like successful, truly there was a price y'all paid, you know. And honestly, I can reflect more on just my high school experience and my college experience as far as like a price we paid, you know, for like to have some success. But it seems like y'all were suffering, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that waking up at 5 in the morning and it being, you know, 10, 15 below. Like you walk into the stadium and
Below, like we talking cold, man.
oh yeah, it's below
Freezing out
cold.
there.
It's beyond cold.
Yeah.
You're breathing in, you know, and you can just feel the air just freezing as it goes down your throat. And that's what you got to work out in. It's like,
And I heard your gym was like kind of whack too, huh?
oh, it wasn't a gym. It was like 4 squat racks, like 4, you know, clean deadlift areas.
But it was just where you work, huh?
Yeah.
What you do.
Just we're working out like in the coach's office areas, you know, like yeah, we're working out under the bleachers. We turned the dryer on to warm it up. So
We paid the price, I think.
it was awesome. But you look back at it, you know, and you enjoy the suck, and it's like, man, like that's why we did what we did, right? Because again, you have people so entitled and thinking they're going to be successful by not doing those small things and even those big things, and you know, you don't get to where you want to be just to show up.
I think you hit it. You hit it free, because once it starts to like creating a business, taking your financial situation to the next level, if you suffer and you get through it, you look back on it, I think, a similar perspective, you know.
Yeah.
Going to grad school, that was tough. There was things in my life, it was tough, you know. The individual training, just to even be in the mix. I mean, we had talent at Dixie State, right? We had people there, but there was a different mentality, and the pillars were a little different.
Yeah.
I joked that we had more of maybe the wrong things, but it was interesting that you said the thing about resources. I didn't quite realize that even at Snow that wasn't really involved, because I know at Dixie State it was definitely an issue. What I remember in college football, and I believe it's the same today, you have a 3-hour seminar that's like yearly that all the student athletes have to sign a paper, and you hear about consequences. You do this, you get suspended. You do that, it won't work. And it's interesting because later in my career, when I learned a lot about the literature for it, I realized that consequences don't work. If that was the case, nobody get DUIs. If you just know what the consequence is, like, that's not enough, you know? And there's all these plays, all these formulas in that Essentials album I was telling you about that would help people make better decisions. Now, you actually ended your career short too, right?
Yeah.
You had one more year eligibility?
Yeah. Yep.
And then
I'm still thinking about going back and playing.
I think you could.
40-year-old dude.
You looking like you could. I think I've seen some articles, man. No, I think you playing the game and some other things though that you've taken with that. But yeah, I gave up 2 years of eligibility, and but yeah.
What would you change, or if anything, do you regret not playing those 2 years?
You know, man, I regret the way I played when I played there. I had my mentality was like, I'm better than this. And Schmidt and me, we butted heads a lot, and I guess I didn't understand how it was like it was like I felt like a mind game with me a bit of like, it'd be like, just tell me I'm playing for hell's sake, you know. Or there was some different linebackers, but even my freshman year, man, I quit. Man, I quit or got kicked off the team, I think like 3 times. My freshman year, I played a lot, and I was number 2. And there was games like playing Weber, and I felt like he called us out. But I guess like just getting that special treatment entitlement in high school,
Yeah.
it was like just be straightforward with me. And I think with him, he was like, no, be right by me and beg, and then I'll throw you in there. And I'm like, I ain't begging, bro. Like, you want me to ball out, you ball out. And then he'd be like, well, if you're down there watching from there, I hope you got a good view. You either gonna do it my way,
Yeah.
or you're not gonna do it my way. And then when it
Yeah.
came to we got some help with coaching. Came back my sophomore year instead of going to UNLV. But I think I wish that I would have been myself. I knew that there were things that were going on at Dixie that were not okay. Like, the leadership was kind of whack, bro. And
Subpar.
it was when you see guys doing curls in the locker room to make their arms look big, like, there's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
And those people have their success in different things, but do you know what I'm talking about? I don't know if
Yeah,
you were
but
there.
all that approach, the shit rolls downhill, right?
It did.
I mean, and I honestly, I don't even like reflecting back that far because
That's when you know it wasn't the
years,
best.
right?
Yeah.
But I mean, if one of our coaches saw us doing that at Snow at junior college, we wouldn't have played that game. We probably wouldn't have played the next 3 games.
Yeah, and we didn't have a standard amongst ourselves.
There was no standard.
And I think
and
if anything,
just,
the standard was like, are you really gonna like talk this way? You're gonna show you care about that? It was just like, hey, we're ballers. Let's do what we need to do.
Yeah, it was that mentality of like, hey, I'm a college athlete, and you can. That's all I'm here to do.
Yeah, so I say the regret as far as playing was like not taking as much initiative, but there were moments where I did. But I'd say as far as like things that I'm glad I did, my mentality of how I played football, Freed, was if you like me, I'm not doing my job. Like, I wanted to be hated, bro. I wanted to be hated, and I did hit people, and I ran after people, and I practiced hard, and people didn't like me, and I had my scuffles with people, and at least that's the way how I was supposed to play it. But I think I shot myself in the foot with some things I did, for sure.
Yeah.
And then as far as the culture, I think it just came in at a wrong time, and then I lost the fire, got a little out of focus. And me and you both have kids. We want to teach our kids this game of football, sports. Your kids do some wrestling too, right?
Yeah.
You were telling me. How's that been?
Yeah. It's good. Man, wrestling's a sport, man. I'm telling you, it's.
You're involved in something over there, huh?
Yeah. I wrestled growing up, and I think it's single-handedly, it's the best sport that kids can play, can participate in. Because there's no pointing the finger. There's no blaming anybody else.
Yeah.
If you win, it's on you. And if you lose, it's still on you. You can stand out there by yourself and look around, and it's you.
Can't really blend in, huh?
Yeah, you can't hide from nothing. And, I mean, it's tough because with wrestling, literally there's 10 seconds left and you can be up winning the match, right? And then you get pinned. So you have that high, that emotional high, like, yeah, I'm gonna win. And then you screw up. You do one tiny little thing wrong, and it's over and you're on the losing end.
Yeah.
So just that massive,
Impact,
peak and valley, peak ebbs and flow of emotion.
Yeah.
I think that's very important for kids to learn, because how many people, even adults, can't even manage their emotions. They don't know how.
That's true.
There's so much anxiety, so much depression, so many of these things all around at every age, and nobody knows how to manage it.
We played defense. I mean, my intensity was a good thing in football, but I did have to do some work to manage it in my personal life. But how have you been with, like, I mean, I just take it kind of, shouldn't generalize here, but you did play D, and how'd you do with managing the emotions transition? You ever just get kind of, what do you do with that energy?
Man, I guess now I'm a little older, I'm, a little bit more calm, but
Yeah.
I still get amped up every now and again. I mean, there's, especially when it comes to sports, my kids are participating, and, I still get it. I still get it, that rush of adrenaline, but, I'm just trying to be that example. I don't want to be that dad where it's like you drive them so hard and
Yeah.
they, lose their interest. And,
I'm with
it's a fine line,
I'm
you
with
know.
you. You coach at all, like after playing ball, like
Yeah.
other than your kids?
No, I haven't coached anything.
I did some D coordinator over at West Jordan
Oh, yeah?
for a couple of years, yeah, and focused more on the linebackers. It was a cool experience, but then I felt like they weren't quite getting it as far as like the big picture, and they were getting to Julian that was like just fresh from throwing some years of eligibility, got caught up in some of the wrong things, and they were getting to Julian more like that, you know.
Still getting heated.
It was, man. Yeah, that was one of the many things still going on. But I did. I wanted more tools to help him. I think that's when I made the transition to become a therapist. But I had some like pit stops. Like I did detective for a bit over at like West Valley and did the hard drug cases. I did some things like worked on like some gang units, like just helping like youth and people. But then I was like, man, I really want more skills. So when I got like my degree and I looked at the opportunity to do therapy, I was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. And a big part of what I specialize in is identity. And they say that if our identity increases or decreases, we're kind of like in trouble no matter what. So if you're gonna get a bunch of hype in your sport, if you just remove it, it's just like too much of a fall. And so you look for pillars that like kind of replace what you had with football. So when we talk about like this end being a new start, a lot of people don't know what to start with. You know, they're like,
Yeah.
what do I do now? I didn't really pay attention to school. I did school for football. Then what do they do? Man, been some ballers that I have heard. They're cleaning tables at a bar, bro. That's okay, but I just think with the work ethic, like why not something else you're passionate about? Or some guys got and replaced it with the street culture,
Yeah.
or like drugs and all that. And we've lost some players. I was telling you when you first got here, we've lost some people since who we played with. You know,
Yeah.
they got a little too caught up. So there was that as a distraction for sure, and just realizing I wanted to give back a little bit, change the game a little bit, help it out. You know, and when you do something different, you're creating something, come across as being a little crazy until it works, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the language really is just kind of like trying to help people with those things. So what are you doing for work these days? Like, what do you do for a living?
I'm in the sales, financial arena, so been working kind of coaching, mentorship side of things for people who are wanting to be more savvy and
You're not
more
turning off
knowledgeable about.
you're not turning off the heat, putting them underneath the bleachers and
No.
none of that stuff. But what
No.
what'd you take with like snow and those fundamental stuff, or like with football in your life, like for your career?
Well, I think you just said it, the fundamentals, right? And
Mhm.
there's, I think in anything that you do, career-wise or passion, there's fundamentals that, there's a base that you need, a foundation. And, I just tried to apply that same discipline that I had to have in
Yeah.
sports to my career. And, I didn't know anything about sales. And,
Competitive, I'd take it.
right.
So you did.
There's that competitive aspect, but there's a lot of psychology and things that go into sales, and like the making sure that you can help the person you're trying to talk to. And so just been doing that for 10 years, and it's going good.
Call y'all sharks, you know,
Yeah,
kind of way.
exactly.
But reading people and knowing what people want, I think that's like one of the very many skills that athletes could be gaining, because they are a business and they start to meet people nowadays. They can get some payment, get some work. There's some bad deals out there, man.
Yeah.
There's some deals that aren't good for you, and just like creating your own brand, doing things better than the other guy. I think when they think like sports psychology, they're always like, oh, it's just performance. And it is usually just like help you make the bucket, help you do that.
Yeah.
But mental health really is like understanding where we got our temper from in our life, understanding our weaknesses and our powers, man, through all your life experiences, like wins and loss record, past football, you got it in life. That's the best way I could say it.
Yeah.
So desired behaviors are the wins, undesired behaviors are the losses. and everyone gets to choose what was a win or a loss, but it all made you into how you were assembled.
Yeah.
And then once you start to kind of look at it, you go, okay, that makes sense. That's how I'm good with people. That's how I can kind of sell. And there is a system to teach people brand new stuff that they don't have. But usually what I've been finding is people are scared these days. They're scared to kind of put themselves out there. They're scared to fail.
Yeah. Fear of failure.
Well, props to you for taking the call. And I mean, I took that honest inventory of myself. I was thinking about people out here, and I was like, you know what? I played ball with Freed. I got some memories with Freed. I wouldn't say we've spent the most of time with each other, but I read people for a living, and I paid attention to the times that we've like been over at the gym. And there was a really cool memory I have when LJ swam across that Olympic swimming pool, and everybody was clapping. And we were putting LJ in swim for a bit, and then he just got, he's like, I'm big on like he should do what he's passionate about. And maybe we did a little too much, I'll admit that. But it was a little weird to see a 3-year-old cross an Olympic-sized swimming pool.
Yeah.
And then being like, what? But, starting to ask about your kids and seeing what you're trying to do there. What are you trying to do there? As far as like, what are you trying to build there with your kids? Taking from like the good that you've had, the not so good you've had. What are you trying to do there, man? It seems like I can feel it with you that it's important, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of, I don't know, I think there's a lot of disrespect in the world, and I think that's the one thing I'm trying to teach my kids is, be respectful. If you want something, you got to go get it, and I mean, I'm not going to tell you something you probably haven't heard before, but, I mean, you can't just show up on game day and win the game. It's all the work, Monday through Friday that you put in. If you work hard, it makes the game and the result of the game that much easier. And you can still do everything right and not come out on top. And that's life, dude.
That is life. That entitlement kind of carries over. I've been helping some guys, and I've heard some things like, oh, well, this guy was just kind of out to get me, man. He didn't like this about me, or there was this. And I'm just like, what gives you the right to think that you get to bypass that? You're going to go to a place, you're going to look for the place there's no conflict. And I think people do that in relationships, man. The minute there's a red flag, per the culture that's kind of being instilled out here, run. Why not work it out? Like, who doesn't have a red label or something broken about them? We're all beautifully broken, bro.
Yeah.
We all have flaws, and the worst flaw is the person who says they got none. But usually people, watch out.
That's the biggest red flag.
Watch out for that. Or if it's completely somebody else's fault, or just like the way, man, even like the way
it's
that
just
people.
the victim mentality.
Yes.
Everybody's a victim, and, they don't want to your point, they don't want to work through anything. It's easier to give up.
Even the way that they use words like, because, with social media, it's part of our culture now, unfortunately. There's just like some things with it. But the way that they'll call people disorders or say, oh, they're that. Even the way that people will call people like narcissistic is narcissistic. Like they'll be like, oh, and they're just that. And it's just like the blame and just like the whole like cutting them off and the cancel culture, which I've said on here before, just I still can't wrap my head around how someone has an experience and they had their emotions and we want to correct it to be healthy as a society. I get that, as we should. But then to say, oh, you though, my friend, let's delete you. You're no good. Like you're done. Let's just cut your resources off. Just the very act of doing that is kind of what they did.
Yeah, hypocritical.
Yeah, because it's like, how dare you put someone in a box? But you, my friend, you're in a box. And I'm going to put you in that box. And it's like, so we can put people in boxes who do things. Where's the love, man? There's not really love in like working through things. And you had said something just barely. You said you can't just show up and expect to win. But I think in today's culture, Freed, people expect to show up if they don't win, they get to point a finger and make an excuse why they didn't win, as long as it's not on them, and that's okay.
And that's how I'm trying to not raise my kids.
Gotcha.
You know, I think again, reflecting on sports, um, you're not going to win every play, right?
Right.
And if you sit and dwell on the play that you lost, what do you think? How are you going to perform the next play?
But maybe with the social media and everybody showing just the highlights, it's not normalized.
Right.
There's
You don't
that
see all-
classic Jordan one. You
you
remember
don't
the
see all the
Jordan one with the
bullshit
9,000
people go
shots he
through.
missed and all
Yeah.
that? The classic. But I think fundamentally it just means, yeah, you all aren't talking about that.
Right.
You just see the championships, you see that. Maybe I made it easy for you. You know, I made you think it was easy.
And that's why I think it's more respectful to see people's losses or failures, you know, because they're putting themselves out there. They're willing to show that that's their weakness at that time. And then they still have the fortitude to get up and go try again.
Yeah.
You know, life's not all wins. It's more losses than wins, right?
But learning how to stay in there, and I think learning from your losses.
Yeah.
Those cracks, those pillars that I brought up, they get cracks. They get losses in the pillars. Being married, you know, like, there's things that happen. And it's what you do when they happen. And relationships, you and I, we could be doing something, going camping with our kids, whatever. There could be something you say, I say, or I forgot, I offended you. But I want a culture with my kids where it's like, hey, if you make a mistake, talk to people, be accountable, and say, what can I do to make this right? And then be a man, and what you do coincide with more of who you want to be, and then that's how you fix it. But the culture is, wow, you did that? People who do that are in this box. And so I'm going to distance myself from you, and I'm not going to talk to you. And that's rough, man.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's rough.
I think anything that goes against your own belief system probably helps persuade you to do that. You know, put that person in a box and, you know, turn away.
You said that thing about the losses and stuff. The Essentials album, that little movie in it does illustrate more things in my life, to just kind of be real, like nothing fake, nothing just like, oh, this would be a cool scene, like all like real events of just using the formulas that I've picked up along the way, man. And I'm hoping to be vulnerable, transparent, be like, hey, you don't need to do this either, but I learned a lot. You can learn a lot too if you go there. And honestly, with my kids, they may make, unfortunately, it's weird to think about, mistakes, and they will make mistakes, right? Like we were saying. But what they do when they make mistakes, man, and not letting it define them, you know? That's the key right there, I think.
Yeah, I've seen it with, you know, in relationships with kids, you know, and outside of my own, and just the lack of accountability. And you coaching this last season, my son's Little League team.
It's cool. Riverton, right?
Yeah. The accountability, right, that I asked these kids to inherit as being on the team, you know, and seeing that transition take place from the first game to the last game was insane. It was awesome, you know, just to see that. And I mean, I had a handful of parents, you know, that was their hang their hat on, you know, hey, the kids really learned accountability to each other and to themselves.
When you start being accountable, you just sound different. Like you start saying things like, when you're late or something, instead of being like, oh, there was traffic. It's more like, Coach, I was selfish today, and I didn't plan for things like this to happen, and I'm going to work on that, and I'll make this more of a priority. I apologize. You deserve better from me. It's like, when you start to do that, you know, it's different. I think even in school, when I was like pursuing the grades, all the students were making every excuse you could think of, like the classic, like up to the dog ate my homework. But I learned that through coaching with Mike Morgan. He played in, I think it was the AFL back in the day, and he had a career over at BYU. I think he holds the record still, like 21 sacks in a season, but he's way old school. And coming from that Dixie era and just where I was at in my life, I was making a lot of excuses. And he called me out, man. And in a way, I started to realize that man, not in a way it was his way. He won championships with people. He didn't really care about wins and losses. He cared about the people, and you didn't realize that. And like coaching for him, it was like, okay, yeah, like we're gonna help these kids, blah blah blah. But he was helping us. But he told me I had an excuse for about every darn thing in my life, and I did. Oh, my knee, or oh this, and then I started to realize that was like, that was a way to protect myself. I was just being weak. I wasn't saying the truth. I was scared.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, I got a good little narrative how I play ball. Were you in the Western Oregon game?
Yeah.
I felt like this is my honest opinion, I did like feel like we had to dig deep in that game
Oh yeah.
to make that one happen. Like what? That we were only like up 8 points and we had our backs to the end zone, and it was I never was that tired in my whole career. That was the most tired I ever been, bro. Maybe you're like, oh, 2 championships over at Snow, but that was the most tired I ever been, bro. But I had to dig deep in that one. But I did feel like we, like on the bench when we were waiting to get back in that game, I did feel like there was like, we cut the a little bit, and we kind of were like, enough's enough, like let's go.
Yeah.
And I can't account for it always being that way, but that was like one of our bigger wins that we had for a bit there, But we had to really like make a decision then. And life's all about making decisions. But as far as a decision as a whole, to like not have to like do that in a game and be like, let's dig deep and let's make it work. I think that was like the only game I remember us talking to each other out there. I'm serious. Like other than that, it was individual, bro.
Yeah.
It was like that was like the only game I even remember it being.
That's
like
the funny thing. I mean, it was, you say that, again, reflecting back on stuff, like I had so many good friends on the offensive side of the ball in JUCO, and like the D linemen, like I'd be rooming up with those guys instead of defensive backs,
Yeah.
And that was like I said in the beginning, the camaraderie. And there's I think there's a lot of camaraderie that takes place in life too, especially when you transition from that time in your life of high school to college, if you go to college, from college to after college to, marriage and family and things. I mean,
I guess now we're doing it with our kids, right?
You got to build a team, right?
Now we're trying to build it with our kids and a culture a bit.
Yeah.
So you're using sports and stuff, and then helping them be accountable. In my home, we got the Brazilian culture, so there's little differences, and sometimes me and my wife are not always on the same page, and that's part of it being different too. Somebody wants it to be one way, and I'm like, we're gonna need to meet in the middle. It's not gonna be one or the other, because I do believe like when it comes to like watching so much TV or electronics, like I'm not big on that. Like I'm more of like, I want my kids to be outside, man. I want it how we grew up. Like I didn't have that, and if not, they just kind of keep staring at it a little too long.
Yeah, it's easy to get sucked into that stuff, and before you know it, it's 2-3 hours later and the day's gone.
So what about for yourself now, like in your career, like with sales and stuff? You thinking of like, what's like the next kind of things you're trying to get? Clock doesn't stop, right, for you? We're still in it.
No, I mean, it's, the cool thing about the career that I'm in is that it's something new almost every day.
Okay.
So it doesn't ever feel like I'm stagnant.
That's good.
And it's always challenging, So it's definitely a skill set. If you don't continue to improve and hone, you lose. It's one of those, if you don't use it, you lose it. So, but no, there's I mean, I definitely I'll working on a couple of things, to like an exit, eventually. I'm on the phone a lot. I mean, that's what I do, and I definitely don't want to be a 50 or 60-year-old guy on the phone, So I got some things.
Let me tell you why I bring it up. I bring it up because, and I'm gonna say this, as best as I can. Well, if I'm worried of becoming a slave, and I make decent living, I think a lot of us should be worried about becoming slaves. And what I've been seeing in like the culture out here, I guess what I'm saying, it's not about winning games now, but let's just say life and giving our families the best. I kind of notice it's like a game of Monopoly, where if we don't have assets and ways to make money, we don't break what some people refer to as the matrix. And if we're going to keep getting taxed in this country, we're going to keep having the higher rates or what it be. It just seems like education, good food, anything that's really healthy for you, it's like getting harder to access, man.
Yeah.
And when we talk about resources, just glimpsing back in college, we didn't really have that. I mean, and I've used this reference before, but just like it's like we were chewed up like bubble gum. Let's take what we can from the players, and hey, hopefully you got a good exit. And in life, in school, I didn't learn a lot of the things that I started once I became more educated going to USC. I did not know a lot of the things about news, about influence of what we see in the window on our phones, and it was really eye-opening. And then realizing a lot of people just don't know these things. And then what am I going to do about teaching it to them? I guess that's where these things come in, you know. If somebody's out there and they want to become more educated, yeah, they could do the Essentials album, but I think even just like our conversations, hopefully some people back home will be like, hey, I guess that is like, we do got to show up. We do got to be accountable. I guess I'm doing that myself. Like, how do I stop doing that? But the slavery thing is just, man, if I'm making to where it's like, let's say top 3% in America, and I worry about just like financial freedom. And yes, I own a home. Yes, it's in a way we can look at it as simple, but like for where I see it, for when the kids, my kids, your kids are gonna be adults, and the options I'm gonna actually give them, it seems like it's all about factories that make money, assets. And if you live in your own house in this country, you're not making money on that asset. And it's like the dream, though, right? It's like, oh, well, buy a home.
Yeah.
But really, that's not like what I've been learning on how you do it. You know, I reference like my parents being immigrants coming to this country. My parents are millionaires today, but my dad delivered pizzas, bro. My mom and him became educated, and they had like a decent life. Yeah, we grew up in that border Kearns T-ville, but like seeing what they started to do with money, and then realizing when I made a little bit of money, I was like kind of just acting foolish, really, buying stupid things I didn't need. And
Yeah.
but even there's that part, you know. So I just think like the skills you have, what we're talking about, it is uncomfortable, but in the game of life, there's more that we could do. But it just seems like it's gonna be harder. It doesn't mean you have to have that business or you have to make money. I do think that there's wealth in just having a family. I think there's wealth in having good relationships, and I'm all for like people's own definition of success. But looking at it, like really looking at it, man, how expensive things are getting, and like the money we're giving countries, the things we're doing, like I don't know, things need to kind of change up a little bit.
Yeah,
you know,
it's sticky.
yeah, it's
that's
super sticky.
why it's even more important to build that foundation, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's no handouts for my family. It's like if you ever needed money, it was like, here's the check to pay us back if we give it. And I realized why they did that. You know, it was like we're not going to make it easy for you. You know, and that stuff made a big impact for me. You know, but yeah, when it comes to stuff like that, is it risk? Yeah, it's risk. You know, but I think when we grow up playing sports, yeah, there's a thought of like maybe I'll go to the league. But even guys in the league, you've seen those 30 for 30s or things like that. Like
Yeah.
they don't even got money no more. They didn't know what to do with the money.
Well, I mean, I don't remember the statistic. I got a good buddy that played in the NFL for a while, and I mean, it's over 70%, 73, 78% of the NFL athletes file bankruptcy.
But isn't that culture part? Because there's something that I've noticed too about what's happening amongst us. You can, man, there's guys on the street in places like San Diego, wherever, cities out here, they probably got the tags from Nordstrom, bro. Like, looking the part, like they look like $1,000,000, but they're out there, and it just seems like if you have certain clothes, jewelry, car, it gives you like an instant pass where people treat you different.
Yeah.
But it keeps you a slave because you're not going to be able to use your money and make money with your money, you know? Because back to the Monopoly reference, if we just go around and collect our 200 and you're like, oh, I have a lot of money. I don't want to buy those things because I want my money. But in that game, there's not really any like little trinkets of like, oh, well, you got this. That's cool.
Yeah.
We're going to invite you over here, you know? Maybe your get out of jail free card, but in life, you don't even get that one.
Yeah.
But I think it's just more like that, man. Those type of things, there's just, they focus more on, even in their moment with football, I focused more on the scene, the different lights, you know. It gave me power, respect for men, and if there is something from playing college ball, we do get respect. When you ball out, I feel like amongst men, they're like, oh, you play college ball, that's tight. Like there's like a sense of respect and status in
Yeah.
this country, I believe, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just not a lot of substance, man.
Very shallow.
And even like music, you listen to music a lot.
Yeah.
But I feel like what I kind of see nowadays with the lyrics and just like what they show, you know, in the Essentials album, I think when they first see the trailer,
Mm-hmm.
they might think, oh, okay, cars, jewelry, girls, clubs, cool, because that's what's cool. But I'm really just reeling them in to kind of be like, okay, you seeing that? Now I got your attention. But then they kind of see that it was all BS.
Yeah.
And bro, I care more about being a guy that does certain things. Like the fact that you were just like, hey man, I'm down to help you out. Like that just shows me a lot about who you are, because it is a little bit outside the glass of like you're uncomfortable. You're like, what's he doing? That's when you came. I was like, hey man, let me show you something. But I just love that you were like, you know, just down, man. You'd be surprised. I've known people like I've seen way more than you for 10 plus years that have been like, oh man, I'm with you. And then once I start to kind of do some things, just trying to follow my heart with what I should do, where those people at, Freed?
Yeah.
But you seem like you have certain a certain foundation. That's good.
Well, you gotta help. I don't know. It's, you know, help the other person. Help your fellow American. You know, I mean, scratch
are
my back,
American,
I'll
man.
scratch yours,
And I got your back.
it's
That's just how I am. But not everyone's like that,
yeah.
huh?
Most people aren't.
Where did we lose that?
Culture.
Why is the culture changing, man?
Selfish.
I feel like we kind of just did something with like our experience in college together, and the culture was off, right? And just tell me this: what do you think would have changed it? If not talking about like a regret, just like what would have taken? I feel like what would we do in those player meetings? We just fight everybody, and just get this isn't gonna fly no more. Like,
Well, no, I mean,
like
like
what
I
are we
said,
gonna do?
like I said, the shit rolls downhill, right? So, and when I say that, I mean the coaches. You look at the coaches. You know, I mean, I didn't respect the coaches. I didn't make that known. But
What was kind of missing to have the respect?
them respecting me.
Gotcha. I like what you're saying, because it's actually one of the interventions in like the Essentials is that when you have things that have happened to you that you didn't like, or you to yourself, or you did to others, or somebody else did to somebody else, you actually that can become a power for you by doing the opposite. So like when you're like, you know what, I know the importance of respect because I didn't get respect, and you kind of know it a little bit different. Not only does it kind of help you heal yourself, but it actually is a perspective that you know the importance of it. And you had said that with
Yeah.
your kids, right?
Yeah.
The importance of respect. But what was it? Just he wouldn't like look at us in the eye, and he wouldn't really like talk to us. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
tell you, I try to have some face-to-face
yeah.
conversations, and I just got this like, hey, get the hell out
Well,
of here.
you
blah,
knew,
blah, blah.
yeah, you knew that they genuinely didn't care about our success, right?
There was some lies. There was some
you
lies.
talked about the resources and lack of them, right?
Yeah, now we're getting real.
Those, you know, you could walk into their office, one of the coach's office, and you knew that they weren't being genuine with you.
Yeah.
They tell you what you want to hear, get out.
It's a salesman, man. I had
You
the
know?
UNLV opportunity, and then I'm like being told, no, like, why would you do that? You're gonna start for us. And then when I got the tape to even sent to him, it was some BS angles of some like, I'm like, what was that? That wasn't no game film. We didn't have what we have now with like the digital stuff. That was coaches just being like, ooh, hopefully you get out this little
Yeah.
trick I gave you. But it was just like some shady stuff, and nobody made the phone call being like, hey, what's up? Where you at? And man, I got caught up in a lot of things, Freed.
And there wasn't really any accountability
Yeah.
either, you know, down in St. George. I mean, you missed a practice, what happened? If you were late to practice, what happened? You know, if you know, got in trouble, you know, academically, they didn't care about your grades.
Yeah.
You know, all of those things, the foundation that was just instilled in me in my previous experience from JUCO.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't get on the bus unless we had a grade printout from every teacher
It was like
saying that we were doing well, not just subpar. If we had a C, our coach would be grilling us before we got on the bus. What's this? You better get it done. You better get it fixed. You know?
When the standard's higher,
Oh,
human behavior, we will do what we need to do
yeah.
because then we value it. If you don't have a personal standard and you're kind of like too wishy-washy, too like you bend a lot, you actually don't have you don't get that respect.
And that's the standard. There is no standard in society anymore. It's whatever that individual deems his or her standard is.
I will say though, what gives me hope, and it's people got to be smart back home or watching this. If you pay attention, you American, and you talk to fellow Americans, we're smart enough to be having a conversation, and me and you have had it, where that's not on the news or it's not on the Instagram and it's not on the TikToks or the Facebooks or all of that stuff. That I feel like there's an underground America of like, we know what we will do and we know what we stand for, but we may not post it because we're aware.
Yeah.
And so when like countries like back home in Brazil, and man, I am American, and I love this country. I do have Brazilian culture, but push comes to shove, like this country's given my family a lot, bro. I love this country, and I'm in a weird spot because when I go back home, they don't view me as Brazilian, they view me as American. But I have culture, Brazilian culture, where it's like I've had a little bit of a different upbringing of appreciation being American. But I would say that there is a different America in that how other countries may perceive us. They just view it as like what they see on the news, what they see on the social medias. But there's an underground America that we are not going to let the bar drop.
Well, why do you think America is the only country standing from ushering in all their bullshit? You look at everything that's happened, transpired last 4 years. America, like Australia, right? Done. They shut it down, right? Europe, they tried to shut it down.
Yeah, and that's gonna be when we know that play.
They tried to shut America down. Didn't work.
It might need to be a little bit with the younger generation. We either can get them to change and catch on, but it might need to be like, move over. We got this.
It's gonna have to be move over.
Yep.
It's gonna have to be.
We come from an era that, like, that is what's gonna happen, and I know it in my heart, and we're ready. But those components that we got freed, and just thinking today, and man, I do appreciate you. It's been a cool convo, and a real one, and got even more respect for you,
Yeah.
And seeing that, I feel like we have the components to be successful with our talents in life. We have the components to hopefully create accountability and create a different culture. And there is an underground America. There is an America where we understand each other. We see what's BS. We see what's not. And we're communicating. And you don't know about it. And, just something that came to my mind, they say English is one of the hardest languages to learn. You know why? Because when you say things per the book, you don't make sense to us because we got culture. Like if you say certain things, like when they're like, "Oh man, that's cool," they're like, "What? It's cold."
But isn't that true in Brazil too?
Yeah, it is. It is. There's ways, but I think like in American culture, we have ways that are like not obvious. That you know, and I think that will be one of our strong pillars of like, it's gonna be harder to figure us out. Because we're smarter than that. We already kind of know that there's some things that aren't cool. So regardless of who's in office or whatnot, there is an underground America. And I believe that. And I think when the right time comes, we'll know what we need to do. But they might think, oh, yeah, they're asleep. They're this. I felt people were pretty woke up, bro.
Yeah. Well, I think day by day, week by week, they're getting more awakened,
I agree.
to what's really going on. At least that's, hope's a bad strategy.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely up to you, me, other people that share these beliefs.
Yeah.
And not even beliefs, but I mean, just taking, take the information that we have access to and interpret it. And
I said we draw a line, and we agree that line shouldn't be crossed, and accountability if you cross the line. And unfortunately, sometimes there needs to be discussions. There's healthy forms of conflict, and I think it can stay healthy, but definitely just not just do what you want, no accountability.
Yeah.
And just let's rewrite everything and let's do this. And but because we're in a culture to ask a question or to say no is kind of why would you disagree?
Right.
And when I became educated, and I have way more education to get, it's just like I learned to ask questions to understand.
That's one thing I always ask my tell my kids.
Yeah.
Always ask why. Ask a question.
That's
If
how you
you're even
learn.
in school, right? And this is one thing I definitely could have done better. A teacher tells you to do something, ask them why. And you're not questioning their intellect. You're not questioning their authority. You're just curious. You want to learn more about it.
But the culture maybe seems like it's like, oh, we should know.
Yes.
We should know, and don't more sheep type stuff, not as many lions. Like just do what people are doing, and we get in
Blend
trouble that
in.
way. Yeah, man. As you can tell with what I do in my career, being an LCSW, this language, I'm being me, Freed, and I can tell you too. And I'm glad to see you being successful with your family, raising your kids, shine a little bit of light of like the culture and the things with football, life now away from the lights,
Yeah.
Definitely more resources. Hopefully this Essentials album can bring the scientific stuff to people back home, to the public, everything like that. But man, and I got a little something for you, Freed. Just helping us out, my man. Just a little tea, because you are speaking that language a little bit more, my guy.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
of course. Just a little bit of love. I know you're probably going to cut it up, be at the gym, just
Nah.
doing your thing. No, but appreciate you a lot coming out, man, just being you. And definitely would love to even, like I said, like with our kids and what we're working on, it's good to have good connections, man.
Yeah.
We definitely got a friend over here.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Likewise, man. Thanks for having me.
You already know. And back home, like what you're seeing, go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, comment. It's not my favorite thing, but it is needed in the game for us to give that light and shine that light about good conversations, about our experiences, about mental health, help people back home, just new perspective. If you got any questions and stuff, love to hear it though. Definitely hit you back, and we'll catch you next time.